Good morning, all.
Morning.
Sorry. Okay. AMP? AMP?
We're good.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to Northampton County's General Purpose Authority meeting of this Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Sarah, will you please take a roll?
Mr. Anthony?
Here.
Mr. Derdinger?
Here.
Ms. Pearson?
Here.
Mr. Kraft is excused. Ms. Hefner?
Here.
Mr. Donchez?
Here.
Mr. Colondo is also excused. We have Solicitor Kelhart, myself, Tina, and Dawn from staff.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. In your meeting packet, you had the minutes from April 2nd, 2024. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Pam. Any questions on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments, Sarah?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dixie presentation.
Good morning. So we have the development team here for you this morning. They were at County Council last week and gave the presentation that you're going to see. So we hope you have some questions, but it's a great project and we're hoping to see it come to fruition. So we have Claudia Robinson and Neil Griffith here.
Thank you, Tina. Good morning, members of the authority. Thank you for your time this morning, and thanks for having us. We're really excited to present to you our proposal for the old Dixie Factory, 1921 at Dixie Avenue. As Tina mentioned, my name is Neil Griffin. I'm here with my colleague, Claudia Robinson, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. So we've been meeting with the county, the borough, the school board for the better part of 9 months now, working on the proposal and refining the plan to arrive at where we're at today. This is the site plan that we showed to the borough back in December of 2023, and there's I want to call attention to the lower left-hand side of this site plan. This is where there's a triangle portion that seems to stick out towards 25th Street. These tracts are currently owned by Wilson Borough, and they want them to be included in the development. And so that's what we're here to ask partially of the authority, is to help with this conveyance of these parcels.
Just can I stop you? Is that the public plaza, that
Yes.
little triangle there?
Yeah, so I would like to describe
correct.
a little bit about what this is. So that is, if you can see my mouse, it is this lower left-hand corner here, these triangles. Okay. And so what we're proposing with the development is to not build any new construction on the site outside of the existing building. And so we're just rehabbing the existing building into 405 market rate apartments. And then there's a outbuilding out here on the southwest of the site. It was the boiler building, and we're proposing to turn that into a commercial space open to the public where people can gather. And one of the things that we're really excited about including these parcels in this development is we're proposing a public connection to the Two Rivers Bike Trail here, and then including a new public plaza monument in this triangle. Yeah. And so this is the site plan that we submitted for the zoning in the middle of last month. And so as you can see, there's not much has changed since December. And we've been, working diligently on keeping to what we have proposed. I want to zoom in for a second on this triangle parcel because this is something that we're really excited that we think could be a benefit to the community at large. Within that commercial space, we're proposing a a place that people can gather, have food and drink, and enjoy a nice afternoon on a weekend.
Bring their dogs.
But then also, yeah, bring their dogs, have a little dog run, make it a really nice space for people to just hang out and enjoy some beautiful summer weather. And then with that is involving a bike path connection that actually goes to the trail, as you can see. And so, you know, school children from the high schools can easily make it to that trail and safely, you know,
Make use of it.
Yeah, make use of it, bike across the whole county. And, because it's a really great asset that this area has. And then the existing Dixie Cup that's on top of the building it was built as a water tower. And so the construction of it is thick steel, it's very heavy, and it's been 40 years since any maintenance has been done on that cup. And so it's not exactly safe for us to have that in its existing state above new residential units.
It's really heavy. It puts a lot of strain on the roof. And so therefore, what we're going to do, well, one thing we haven't mentioned is that we are in the process of applying, should get close, last time I learned. Get close, okay, so we're applying and are in the process of the National Park Service. So we've been working with the State Historic Preservation Officer. We are submitting to put the property on the register. And also, the renovation will be done in accordance with the National Park standards. With that in mind, that is why we're taking the old cup and preserving it, making it safe, so people won't be able to toss things in it, but we're going to restore it. And it'll be really a monument to the Dixie Cup. We are going to do a replica on top of the building, which will be made out of plexiglass, and it'll be a much lighter structure so that it'll still have the same visual impact that the current cup has, but it'll be a lot safer for the building. And then at the same time, paying homage to the Dixie Cup in a public park.
Yeah, and so that the existing Dixie Cup will become like an homage to the history of the site located in this public plaza, well lit and very open to the public. And this park is not going to have any like playground equipment or anything of that sorts. It's just brick pavers, some landscaping, some benches, a place for people to meet and use the bike trail, but not exactly a place for children to be running around next to 25th Street.
And the other thing you should note is that because we would be taking control over it, we will be doing the maintenance. So from the borough's perspective, it's a win-win situation. It opens up public space for the citizens, but not at the cost to the borough.
I'd like to share a couple of renderings of what we think that space could be like. So on the left, we have the commercial space where, it's an indoor-outdoor public amenity. There's a nice patio, a dog run for the dogs to run around. And then within the building, we're looking at top-of-the-line amenities, a rooftop deck that for gathering, and some people from the borough are excited to stand there and look down on the football matches that happen. And really nice entry lobby, double height space, welcome the residents in. In terms of the units, this finishes that you'd expect in a new residential construction, modern finishes, modern layouts. The units are a bit bigger than what's in the market as well, and we're charging similar face rents, and so the rent per square foot is going to be relatively lower than other new constructions out there. And that's partially because just the bones of the building allows us to do that. And so we think that this project is going to be very successful and have a really quick uptake in the market.
And again, reminding you all that we are following the National Park Service standards. So there will be inside the building a lot of details that will be preserved that reflect what the building was in its heyday. And obviously, a lot of attention is being placed on the windows, where we are replacing windows, but they're replicas, and they have to be, again, approved by the National Park Service in terms of what goes into the building.
Yeah, so with those national park standards, the building is going to look relatively the same as it is today, but just new.
No, it's going to look a whole lot better. I think he's a little mistaken in saying that. It's going to look a lot like it did in 1921 when it was brand spanking new. And in fact, it's probably going to have a little bit more pop.
Yeah, and so this is what you can expect to see on the outside. We're opening up the courtyards between the original construction of the building and making that a space for residents to gather, little patios, and so people can enjoy the space.
Again, going back to the 1921 renderings, it's more similar to that. There was a lot of additional structures added over the years, especially in the 1950s, some of those bridges and stuff, and we are getting permission to remove those. A, they're not terribly attractive, and B, they would really take away from the outdoor space that we're providing for residents.
And so across the whole development, we have, we're applying for the zoning, as I mentioned, back in April, and we have a zoning hearing board tonight. And so in terms of the parking, we're not actually asking for any variance on the number of residential parking spaces. We know this was a huge concern with, the amount of traffic and everything. And there's a slide later about the traffic study that we had completed. And then another thing that we're proposing for the building as well is to have rooftop solar. And so the amount of rooftops, because the building is such a large square footage, we were able to offset the majority of our common space electrical needs via just the rooftop solar. We're also adding a couple EV chargers. In terms of our progress and support, the borough has been very helpful and supportive of what we have thus far. As Tina mentioned, we talked to the county council last week, and they were also very supportive of our progress thus far. The letter on the left is the letter from the borough stating that they're willing to convey these parcels to this development. And then the letter on the right is from the borough solicitor, Stan Margul, about the progress that we've had thus far and his support for the project.
We've also been in good contact with the Wilson Area School District. We are discussing with them in regards to the potential impact. They are supportive. We just were a little bit behind, and so they hadn't had their board meeting yet.
Yeah, and as an executive summary of the project, we have 405 middle market apartments. The vast majority of them, 76% of them being 1 bedroom and 24% being 2 bedroom. There's no 3 bedroom or above. And this was a direct input that we took in from the school board back probably in August, September.
September of last year.
Where they were concerned about the load on their school, and so we were able to make that adjustment.
Yeah, we actually did a fair amount of research in regards to school-aged children in the Wilson Area District. It's really, they're in a situation where they need steady state. They can't afford to lose a lot of students, and they can't afford to have a lot of students. And we went over in terms of what the expected populations are. Based on the targeted residents, we do not see an increase in terms of children, and they agreed.
In terms of the timeline, we're looking at July of this year through May of 2026. And because of the way the building's laid out, we're able to phase the move-ins. And so we're anticipating the first move-ins happening in January of 2026. In terms of the progress on the zoning, we've submitted everything, all the documents to the Wilson Borough Planning Commission, the Zoning Hearing Board, and the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. We have the Zoning Hearing Board tonight. The Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, we're meeting with them next week. And then the final Planning Commission meeting being June 10th. And we've been in constant communication with the representatives of the borough, and so I don't anticipate there being much pushback, and there's been a really great alignment thus far on what we've proposed. We conducted a feasibility study with the Dietrich Group, And this is a 100-page comprehensive look on both the Lehigh Valley as a whole and how this project would fit into the market, both in residential, commercial, and one of the, as you all know, the Lehigh Valley is a great place to work and live. It's very attractive. Even back into the mid-2000s, there's been an average of 460 new rental units every year, and the rental prices have continued to increase, which shows that there's really strong demand for rental housing in the county. And we, by proposing 405 units, we think that there's still room within the market for our development.
Well, actually, if you look at the study, the Lehigh Valley is probably the 5th strongest market in the country in terms of multifamily. It just has immense growth. And the reason that there is a short supply, honestly, of new product for the community. And so in providing these, we will basically alleviate, as people move into newer units, those that are more affordable will be then available in terms of other folks in the community, so.
And with a project of this size and with its historical character and the reuse of the existing property, having a funding like a TIF is critical to this project.
Yes, if you look at the valuation that the Dietrich report has for the property, it is at around $147 million, which doesn't quite cover all of the costs that we have in our current budget. We have it at $155. There's probably a little bit more of that, more costs that aren't completely reflected. We've been putting in a lot of pre-development dollars into the property. Oh, one other thing that we hadn't mentioned, which I think is very important, is the fact that the Dixie Cup is a brownfield site, EPA brownfield site. We have spent the last few months cleaning up the site. It is obviously our intent, and we're very close to having it removed from the brownfield site so that it'll be clean and appropriate for multifamily. It is also worth noting that even though it was on the EPA site, the contaminants are not of a nature that are difficult to clean up. So we've had a lot of success.
And, piggybacking off Claudia's point, the new owner has put a lot of dollars into the project even before acquisition, which is anticipated to happen sometime this month. Mr. Barty from the Skyline Investment Group, he has multiple decades of experience in both commercial and residential projects, and he's underwritten multiple billions of dollars worth of loans. But even beyond that, his network and ability to gather the proper financing to make this project happen is really strong. And so we have a high degree of confidence that we'll be able to close and move forward with the project as outlined and within the timeline.
I have a question on the remediation. Is there asbestos remediation also needed in the building itself?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in that regard, both lead and asbestos remediation is typical for any construction that happened prior to 1990, honestly. A lot of it is going to be removed. A lot of it will be encapsulated depending, on whether good or bad. The building's been stripped of a lot of stuff. It's in pretty tough conditions right now. So yes, we will have it completely remediated of both lead and asbestos.
Yeah, and in terms of timing on that, that's going to be something that happens immediately after taking acquisition of the building, and we've already talked to the borough about having multiple permitting stages so that we can release, and we have a local contractor ready to go for the remediation as well. There is a slide on that in a second, but in terms of the traffic study, we enlisted traffic planning and design to take a look at our proposal and understand how the peak forget what the word that they use, but how the cars moving in and out of the site during peak travel in weekdays and weekends is going to impact the local intersections. And their main recommendation was that on Butler Street and 25th Street is just to optimize signal timings. And so there's no other necessary improvements other than stop signs leaving our property, which we thought is a really positive recommendation. As Claudia mentioned, with the Act Two remediation, we've removed there's been a lot of drums and containers that were just sitting on the property. There were some wax tanks and oil tanks that were buried beneath the property that have been taken out, remediated. Soil samples have been completed and sent, and we're just waiting on the final approval from the Pennsylvania EPA and to be able to have the property removed from the brownfield.
So who do you represent? You stated your names, but you didn't say who you represent.
Oh, all right. So I am a full-time consultant with Skyline Investments. So I represent Skyline.
And I work for Chasm Architecture, the firm that's putting together the architecture and plans for the project.
Thank you. That was never stated. And so who owns the building now?
The building is in process of being transferred. Right now, at the moment, it is, and the current ownership is still the same. And it's Joseph Riedman, who is the principal face of that. We expect to transfer the property in 2 weeks, and then it will be Skyline, and we will have a single asset entity that will own the building.
So how long have you been working on this project? Because it sounds like you've been involved for months already.
We've been involved since, I've been involved since February of last year. Neil?
Yeah, March of last year.
And you should know that Chasm is also one of the partners. Well, one of the principal is one of the partners in the ownership.
So how did you come to be involved?
How did I come to be involved? It's
Or
a
your
small,
company?
it's a small industry, and my area of expertise is historic rehabs in terms of real estate development. So I knew a few people who were working on the project, and they reached out to us, and that's how I got involved.
What do you plan to charge for these apartments?
Oh, one of the things, I'm being coached. So types of projects that I've been involved in a variety of projects, everything from the childhood home of Elvis Presley to Fenway Park and the Sonic Arena in Seattle, which is probably the largest project that I've worked on, which was over $1 billion. So my experience goes back 32 years. I've done projects, literally multifamily, all over the country, from California to Maine.
So what are you charging for the units?
In terms of rents,
Yes.
I can tell you that the one-bedrooms are running around 1,900. I can't recall off the top of my head.
It says you have juniors and you have twos.
We have 3/4 one-bedrooms, and there was a breakdown between the junior and the larger one-bedrooms. Again, remember, we're working with an existing floor plate with very specific outline, and you have to have windows in all your units. So that sort of dictates the distribution and size of how we stack the units.
But I asked the cost, so I heard 1,900
Oh, the cost,
for-
I have to say, do you
So
remember?
yeah, they hover around $2 a square foot. It's a little bit more for the one bedrooms, but it's a little bit less for the two bedrooms. In terms of the market, this is at or under comparable new construction in the area. And as I mentioned earlier, our units are roughly 100 to 200 square feet larger than comparables in the area as well. And so you're seeing even though the face rents are similar, the price per square foot is slightly lower.
And actually, Lori, if you would look in the feasibility study, I'm sorry, I don't have right at my fingertips, but there's a complete breakdown in terms of how it compares to comparables. And like I said, I remember it being around 1,900 and 2,300 is my recollection, but I'd rather that you had very specific numbers. If you would like, I can get that sheet out of the feasibility study and pass
You
it on
can
to you.
send it,
Yeah.
that's fine. What about affordable, so you're not offering any affordable or accessible in this project?
In terms of affordability, this is what we call middle market, so it's market rate, but it's really targeting individuals that are at 100 to 140% of median income. The feasibility study indicated that there is a shortage of housing in all different sectors in this area. So that is what we are fulfilling. We are putting in lieu of having affordable units in the development, we are providing funds for the county's affordable housing initiative.
And what's your in lieu fee at this point?
It's $27,000 per unit for 10% of the units.
$440 anticipated?
405 units are anticipated. Well, not anticipated, at this point, it's pretty set.
$460 here on your feasibility study.
Well,
Oh,
but
that's something else.
we have 405.
Sorry,
I
Paul,
would also
stole your
say,
show.
No, go ahead.
I would also say that in strong feedback from the borough, they are more interested right now in increasing their market rate units than they are in increasing their affordable units.
Will you continue the project if you don't get the TIF?
It'd be hard for me to answer at that point. I would suspect that we would, but it is an issue.
How so?
Well, right now, in terms of cost of money, it's at a 23-year high. It is difficult to secure the construction loans. We're putting in a fair amount of money, and it'd be an issue of a loan-to-value, debt service coverage issue. So it's that simple. If you look at the math, as I pointed out, in terms of the improvements that are being done on the property, they well exceed what the value is. This is not uncommon for a historic rehab, but it is a big deal. I think that the fact that the building has been effectively vacant for 40 years, its use has not been a positive contribution to the community, tells you a lot about the difficulty in getting this project done.
So just doing the math here on the affordable units, it looks like the in lieu of amount would be $1,093,500. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
So that would go to the county
Correct.
for their affordable housing program?
That is correct.
This is Ron Donchez. My question here, you mentioned, I think, earlier that the budget is around $155 million today, and you mentioned you're putting a fair amount in. Do you have specifically how much you are, or the ownership is going to be putting in towards the financing project?
I believe we had that in one of the presentations. It's approximately a quarter, if I remember correctly.
25%.
Yeah.
Okay. And any other, just circling back to the environmental, at this point, it sounds like, it's a lot of work's done, but you mentioned the soil samples for the underground storage tanks and some of the drums. Have those results come back already, and that you're presenting it back to the EPA, or are you still waiting for those results to come back? I mean, it sounds like you got the asbestos and lead analyzed already, but
Well, the asbestos and lead will be done as a second, as the first phase of construction. That's typical, what's enclosed within the skin of the building. In regards to the removals and such, we have been sharing those results with the EPA, and per our environmental consultant, we're very close to having all of that wrapped up and receiving a clean bill of health. Having said that, a construction lender is also going to be requiring a Phase 1 and possibly a Phase 2 to make sure that the remediation is complete.
so yeah, that's my question. I am in banking for my career, so I'm aware of projects like this. So at this point, you do not have a phase 1 or a phase 2?
No, it would be we're not at the point where we would have the Phase 1 or Phase 2, as you well know, because of FIREA. The construction lender is going to be engaging the environmental study consultant to do the Phase 1 and Phase 2. And prior to closing on a construction loan and beginning the actual construction, we would have those in hand. Obviously, having the EPA saying that it's been cleaned will be helpful, but nonetheless, though, I'm sure that there will be additional drilling.
Yeah, I was just curious if the previous ownership, a lot of time, when a project's been around this long, and I've been involved in brownfield sites in my career, there's Phase 1s or Phase done from years ago that at least you have as a reference point. So
We have that. We do have an old Phase 1 from, I think, was 2016? Something like that. It's 10 years old kind of thing. Again, there hasn't been a significant increase in activity, so I don't see additional pollutants coming into play. But we've started from there, like the work has been ongoing, and once it's completed and, with the construction lender, we will have another Phase 2, Phase 1, I should say. I don't know if it's a Phase 2. Phase 2 depends on what Phase 1 finds, but they will definitely have a Phase 1 that's being done.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you good with that, Ron? It's just that the site's been set kind of abandoned for years, and there could be some leakage into the soil, right? Transformers, that wax tank.
That's correct. And so we have had borings and such. We are not finding things that are, super disturbing. We do not anticipate groundwater contamination, which would be a colossal pain. But so far, the environmental remediation has gone well.
Okay. Did I also read there was a well on site that you abandoned, or is it city-fed water or borough water?
I'm not entirely sure the background on that. I do know that there was, this just comes from EarthRes's report. And the main scope of work that I understand is the removing of the drums and digging up the soil that the drums were around, these underground wax tanks. I'm not fully understanding the supply well being decommissioned.
We can go ahead and get that part of the report if you want. I was told that it was not like a huge concern, but obviously there will be people who are at arm's length who will be verifying that.
All right. Then also the parcel that you're looking at, it's like, to me, about 1 acre?
That's correct.
Okay. No contaminants on that one, right? That's,
No, I don't think so. It's never been part of the site.
right, it's outside, okay.
But when you do the Phase 1, will that parcel be tested as well?
Yes, once it's included, it will be.
Because you just, again, experience, hopefully it's not the case, and I doubt it, but when you just don't know how underground things happen, and if there were any other contaminants away from that site that kind of into the site, you're going to be liable for it, obviously, as you know. So it's really, from a due diligence perspective, you want to get everything.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. Honestly, interestingly enough, even though it's an abandoned manufacturing site, because of what was manufactured there, it's not as dirty. We're not dealing with heavy metals. You know, we really didn't have a ton of benzene-containing ingredients. We did not have a lot, I mean, you had some trucks and such, but it wasn't, you know, what you might expect in some other manufacturing facility. Huh.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, so you're working with the National Park Service. Are you looking at any federal grants or state grants?
We're not looking, well, we are looking to see if there are grants, but we can't count on it. We have to get going prior to any of that being issued. The state grant for the National Park Service is, it's not a grant per se. There's a competitive program for state credits at a whopping $500,000 maximum. So it's very puny. I can tell you in the world of state credits, it does not really register. Again, we don't know what we will be eligible for. So in terms of grants, we're not counting on that. In terms of the federal credits, we are going through the process. It's, again, slow, arduous. We will see what we qualify for there. And you do have to keep in mind that that's not per se a grant. What you do is that you bring in investors who part of their compensation is the tax credits that they receive.
I don't know if we cut you off in your presentation or not, but I had a couple of pages. I don't know if there's anything else. Do you have anything else, Neil?
Think, just the National Register. We've submitted everything for Part 1 and Part 2. We're looking for the Part 1 to be approved this month, and then they already have the Part 2, and so moving on directly into the Part 2 application. And we've already reviewed it with the Pennsylvania SHPO, who's provided some positive feedback, and then the feedback that they did provide, we've incorporated into our submission.
And you should note, too, that with the National Park Service, they comment on everything, landscaping, all site work, even though it's not really their purview, but they do, and they hold you to it.
And that's it. So we're happy to take any questions, huh?
Now we can ask questions. We jumped the agenda there. I don't, so what's your ask? What are you looking for the GPA to accomplish?
We need help in regards to the parcel. In speaking with our local council, they thought it'd be best that the borough deed the property over to the county in terms of it being contributed to the building. It's just, my understanding is that Wilson Borough isn't really in a situation to go through the whole process in terms of how they would handle that. And we were advised that it would be best if the county was involved in taking the property and passing it through to the development.
Okay. Joanne, can you weigh in on that, please? Do you have an opinion?
That's quite a process, but yeah, I mean, it can be done. What's your time frame for this?
Well, that's a great question. That's one of the questions that I had because I don't have that answer. Obviously, we would like to have as quickly as possible as we move forward with the construction lender. They want to see all the parcels in, that we have control. One of the things that you should note is that which is the parcel, Neil, that we have that's parking, that is not part of,
This parcel on the screen right over here.
right? Yeah, that parcel we would have control over already, but it is just for parking and it's not part of the TIF, obviously. So anyways, that's it. We would like to know as soon as possible.
And so that would have to be lined up with whether or not TIF is going to apply? You're going to want
Well,
this
I think-
regardless whether TIF applies or not?
We want it regardless, correct. It just was because of the TIF has to be contiguous, it would be included, just
And the owner of the property, and would, if we agree to, everybody's on board with this? With
Yes.
Transferring this? Okay. Yeah, it can be done if you decide that you want to do it.
So my concern, I have a bunch of different concerns from different lenses, but my concern is when I hear as soon as possible, and this is the first that we're hearing. So I think maybe a more concrete timeline than ASAP would be
Well, okay,
helpful.
so it would be, we're having the property transferred. If we could have this done, in my perfect world, June, that would be fantastic. Again, it's because it just lends itself in terms of our construction schedule. That we did not realize that this would be the best way to go. The borough had all great intentions and said, oh, we're just going to do this. But when we researched with our local attorney, our council said, no, they can't do that. So that is why it's the first that you're hearing of it. We've kept the county, talking with Tina and Steve Barrow and County Executive McClure, completely up to date. We've been pretty transparent. The timing has to do with, this is when we found out, and that's why we're here.
I do have one question, though. If for some reason this parcel gets transferred to the county and the project does not go through, then that means the county is going to be responsible to take care of that. How can we put something in place so that?
I think it'll all be, you're right, it's all an issue of timing.
Yeah.
Once, I think we would certainly agree that once we close on the main property, that we would take responsibility. So I'm not sure how we can work that out, but that's what we would want. We're as anxious as you are that you would not have responsibility to do maintenance or, keeping this parcel.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I missed the timeline. You're going to take ownership of the property on when? Main parcel.
End of this month,
End of May.
yeah.
Well, I would just wait until, make sure that
And then,
That goes through.
yeah, she asked for June for this property transfer, so it sounds like once the transfer happens for the main property, then we would immediately do this one. I think that's the ask.
Yes, exactly.
And our next meeting would be June 4th,
you'd have to decide at June 4th whether you want to do that or not.
proceed or not. Okay. We'll put it on the agenda for June 4th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I'm sorry,
Oh,
yes, I had just one, and it may have been asked. I've been a little bit spotty here. The size of this project and the scope of this project, I had been involved in earlier meetings. I recognize the voices. Will this be open to or made available to local contractors?
Yes, that is definitely on the agenda. We're obviously, we're threading a needle here. So we are definitely doing that. Having said that, it is very important for us to have a general contractor who has a great deal of experience with historic rehabs. A lot of projects get into trouble because they have GCs that don't have that experience. They're like, oh, let's value engineer. We'll just take that right off. Or, these are better windows. We're going to go with that. You need to have a great deal of sensitivity to the historic fiber of the building. So fortunately, Pennsylvania does have a great deal of experience. And so we are in final throes with someone who is from Pennsylvania. We have also said it is extremely important that we open up bidding to local contractors. We've already been in contact with the union shop for electricians. And, that's going to be one of our biggest contracts. and we're looking to have that with open bids. We're managing the cost with having as much local involvement as possible.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. And of course, looking around the valley, we clearly have the talent pool here. And when we're talking about the impact, not just to residents, but this is an economic.
Oh, absolutely. The economic impact is,
You guys are from outside the region. I was just concerned that we wouldn't be bringing people in to take care of something that could very easily be done by the folks around here.
well, frankly, it wouldn't make economic sense to do so either, just pointing it out.
It's done very frequently in this area. That's why the only reason I have the question, elsewise I would.
All right, well, but we are definitely on that, and we think it just makes good sense.
One last question. If we go through this, would the costs for these transfer be borne by Skyline?
It's not going to be borne by you, so I would suspect it will be, yes.
All right, thank you.
You know how it is. They'll get, it's like when you go out, it's when you go for dinner and everyone looks at it and somebody has to raise their hand and go, oh, we'll pick it up.
Understood, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, Claudia, thank you, and Neil, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate everybody's attention and all the questions. Really sounds, everyone's super engaged.
Somebody get to somebody about the transfer of the
Did they talk to
property?
you?
Yes,
Freddie Easton.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Ron, if you're still on the call, we're going to do your treasurer's report, please?
Sure thing. You have in front of you, it's for April 30th, year-to-date 2024. We have total cash equivalent of $708,608.63, giving us total assets of $1,165,000 and change. Our liabilities at $350,000 give us a beginning fund balance on the balance sheet of $240,779. And you'll see here shortly on our income statement, our net gain through the period has been $354,000, which combines gives us liability and fund balance as our assets. Go to the next page, and that's our year-to-date income statement for the general fund. And we have revenues through the period of $402,076.74. Expenses, expenditures of $27,565.91, and that gives us the year-to-date revenue excess of $374,510.83. And then the last piece is our capital project fund balance, and that's the through account when we show revenues through the period of $3,000,009, and the same expenditures to give us zero. The administration fee, I believe that is for the financing. I didn't ask the question. We're involved with the St. Luke's project.
Correct.
I think that the $400,000, $400,000.
Yes, that is all related to the St. Luke's transaction.
So any questions?
I have none. Any questions? All right, need a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charles. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is invoices for payment.
In your packet is a list of the invoices for payment along with the backup documentation. We have an invoice for Benish and Company for $3,890.60. And then our final payments to Riley and Company for the audit totaling $5,570 for a total of $9,460.60.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Pam. Okay. Any questions on that motion? Seeing those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And as always, we have year-to-date invoices paid, and that's just for informational only. All right, Greg.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Everybody have a copy of the status report?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the updates for the month. Bridge 124, all the utility work at the site is completed. I was out there yesterday for the pre-con meeting, and everything looks to be in good shape from the utilities. Banner submitted an HOP application to the township on behalf of the GPA. Submit that on April 24th, along with a complete set of construction plans that we're submitting as an FYI to Allen Township. Krieger submitted their construction schedule to us, and they noted they will be beginning on June 24th and be completed by October 23rd. So right now, in the meantime, the bridge is closed, and Allen Township is maintaining the detour until Krieger start on June 24th, as I spoke with their manager yesterday. The stream restrictions they're all good right now. So they're fine to be working in the stream as well, as it went up on April 1st. Jumping to Bridge 101, we also had a pre-construction meeting at the site yesterday. Construction begins today. They're starting to clear the trees before the bat restriction on May 15th. Norfolk Southern has approved the construction plans for work being completed within their right-of-way. And it's a very limited work within their right-of-way. It's only a small bit of paving in front of the crossing, the railroad crossing. So there'll be limited involvement from Norfolk Southern during the project. So the access for Krieger will be on the other side of the bridge, not the Norfolk Southern side. So that's where they're clearing the trees. There'll be access in the stream from that side and limiting any movement within Norfolk Southern right-of-way. But since there is a little bit of work within the right-of-way in the road work for the paving, Krieger's going to have to sign a right-of-entry agreement, and the GPA is asked to sign a construction agreement, which we have on the agenda after this, which has been verified by the solicitors.
Greg, can I stop you right there? Has Krieger signed that agreement yet?
Not as far as I know, they haven't yet. They said yesterday they're going to be signing it.
Well, about to.
They have not yet, though, no.
I'm sorry,
Suspicious or,
cautious, right?
yeah, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so they haven't signed it yet.
Correct, that's correct.
But you did have a meeting yesterday on site, right?
Yes. Yes, and the township was out there as well, too.
Okay, thank you.
As far as completion date, they're looking at late September to finish. And as of right now, they're only going to be closing the road when they need to. So they'll be closing it for paving, and there may be some other operations, but it's not going to be closed full-time. I think that was good news to the township. When they do close it, they will give the township 2 weeks' notice, and we'll know as well, too. So that's good news for this one. It has a lot of traffic on that road.
Yeah, there is. Then also, construction is expected to begin next month, right?
They're officially starting today.
They are?
Mm-hmm. They're out there
They're
today.
starting today without an entry agreement.
They're not working on the Norfolk Southern
No,
side.
I get
Yes.
that. I understand that,
Yes.
but
Yes. Yeah, this has actually come up during our status calls. We've brought it up to them as well, too.
okay. Thanks.
Going to Bridge 41, we were out at the site April 10th, and we found some, because we were basically checking the punch list items. There were a few items that we found, minor things, and there are also some maintenance items as well, too. So they're aware of those, and they're currently working to get those resolved. The bigger thing they're working on is they're in discussions with the final property owner to talk about, final completion of the site regarding some punch list items that were on the property site as well, too. So they sent a letter to the property owner, and they're currently working out to finalize that. Because that is one of the punch list items I have on my list to make sure the property owners are all in good shape. Jumping to Bridge 54, we still have the same outstanding item, and that's been in my court working with MedEd to try and get a process in place to get the guy wire removed. So I'm still working with them. It's been a little bit of a process to get some agreement in place to move the sky wire. So hopefully by next month we'll have more resolution on Bridge 54. But the contractor that we have on board is ready to go as soon as we get this wire removed. It's really that simple. And Bridge 219 is still on here as some maintenance items that we found that they'll be working on once they do some paving work.
Okay.
If I may, these maintenance items, these punch list items, are, well, they're old, quite frankly. Notwithstanding Bridge 54, but I appreciate that they're saying they're going to do something about it, but it was taken out of their hands at Bridge 54 because they failed to do anything. Where are we with their commitment, actual commitment, not just saying that they're going to be doing these things?
Yeah, so when we went to verify the old punch list items, most of them they did correct, and we found some new ones. So they did go out there, and like they said, they did work on those. But I don't have a timeline when they're going to finish these next few ones, but they told me they were working on it. I'll ask them to get a clear timeline before our next GPA meeting.
Charles, you just mean two bridges, 41 and 54.
Yeah.
Right, for punch list.
Mostly 41, yes.
Okay.
Your phone.
Any other questions?
Well, just with, I forgot the number, the first one. Are there many homeowner concerns that are still pending on those punch lists, or are they?
Bridge 41 is just one. That's it.
All right. Anything else for Greg? All right, Greg.
Thanks, everybody.
Have fun with Med Ed.
Well, so, Greg, should you present the construction agreement?
I can stay up here.
You don't have to read it all.
No, I won't, so.
I tried reading it.
That's fine.
For a little bit of work, it's a lot of paperwork.
So what I can say is we received it, I submitted to Joanne's office, and she had one of her assistants review it, and they've accepted it, so yeah.
Look, we did want a change in it, but it dealt with workers' comp coverage. Norfolk Southern, because it's a railroad, does not have the typical comp coverage that the states do, so we couldn't really modify that portion of the agreement. But it only applies if you have joint employees. We have no employees, so we're not worried about it.
Right.
I recommend that you just go ahead and sign it.
Okay. I need a motion then to sign the construction agreement with
So
Norfolk
moved.
Southern. Thank you, Lori. A second? Thank you, Ron. Any questions on that motion? Seeing those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, yep.
Get this done, right?
New business, staff report, anything, Tina?
We don't have anything to report.
All right. Next meeting will be Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, at 8:15 here in the chambers. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Adjourned.
Thank you. Sorry.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.